Well, hello. Happy Sunday. Sunday is, of course, the day when we do Effed Up News at 5 p.m. Now, I do go live on my main channel every day at 5, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Fridays, we go over to my second channel, Actively Unwoke, at 5 for happy hour. If you have not yet subscribed, that is youtube.com/actively unwoke. The link is down in your description somewhere. If you're watching on Odyssey, Rockfin, or Rumble, while it was on the same channel. No use in being fancy. And then on Saturdays, of course, last night, we had a sassy Saturday, kind of. And I want to talk about that. Quaid said I had a question, but it was deleted. Quaid, sometimes YouTube deletes things. I have no idea. I didn't delete your question, so I don't know what it was, and I apologize for that. But guys, welcome to Effed Up News of the Week for May 15th, 2022. We have got an awful lot on the docket today, and I just want to give you a quick run through of what I have set up for us to talk about today. Now, number one, we're going to talk about Sean Hannity being such a douche to Kathy Barnett that CNN actually ended up fact checking. Not necessarily Sean Hannity. I mean, the two were kind of related, but Sean Hannity, Rick Grinnell, Greg Kelly, and even Donald Trump himself have been such dicks to Kathy Barnett that they are getting fact checked by CNN, which I think is amazing. And Kathy, of course, is having none of this. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about possibly the most embarrassing book that I've ever read for middle school, for 4 to 8-year-olds. Not even middle school. We're dealing in elementary school land here, folks. You are going to be shocked. And I mean that. And you guys know, I don't say this easily. You are going to be absolutely floored at what is in this book, designed for 4 to 8-year-olds being taught in schools. We're going to talk about that. Lots of stuff with schools today, guys. We're going to talk about how a woke high school teacher who was helping organize drag shows accidentally tripped and had sex with a 15-year-old. I'm sure it was no harm was meant. We're going to talk about public school teachers revealing that they work with administrators to ignore the preferences of parents. We're going to talk about this one school who will actually charge people for using the wrong pronouns. And of course, we've got this story about how parents are just like they're being recommended to reach out to child services when talking about trans issues. So lots of stuff there. We're going to talk about MSNBC being idiots. And then I've got a few fun stories at the end, and we'll save those. I'm not going to ruin the surprise for those. I also just want to mention before we get started 2 quick things. Number one, I sent out an email to folks in my Unwoke Army right before we went live. We will be having an Unwoke Army meeting today for those of you who are involved in that. I sent out the Zoom link right before. I will post it in the Discord if you didn't get that email. I have a couple things I want to go over, and of course, I want to hear your guys' thoughts as well. So we will be doing that either at 6:30, or if Effed Up News runs a little long today, because it might, we'll be doing it as soon as Effed Up News is over. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, it relates back to yesterday. And I just want to take a moment here and be serious. So yesterday on the channel, I premiered the stream that I did in my locals community explaining why I would no longer be involved with Walkaway at all. And I have to tell you guys, I was actually really nervous about putting that on my YouTube. I wasn't nervous about doing it in my locals because I know that my locals are the best supporters I have, and I knew that everyone understood, but I was actually really, really nervous about premiering that on my YouTube. I was really afraid of backlash. I know how many people love Brandon Strauch, and to be perfectly honest, I understand it because I love Brandon Strauch. I know it might sound a little odd, but part of the reason I was so hurt by his actions are because, like, I don't even know. I do love him like a brother. I really do. And that's part of why it was so hurtful to me. But I just want to say that I was expecting a lot of backlash from posting that. And although there were onesies and twosies who were upset about it, the amount of support I got yesterday was actually really lovely. And it just felt really good. And I don't necessarily want to say that I feel good about hearing from people saying, we are so sorry you were betrayed in the way that you were. That shouldn't feel good. But it really, like, I heard from people that I haven't heard from in a long time. I heard from people who totally understand. And it it just really meant something to me. And I want everyone to know that I did read all the comments. And I just really appreciated them. Walkaway was definitely a very important part of my journey. And I'm really sad that this era is over. But I'm also actually, there was a freedom that came for me after last night's stream where I felt like the last thing that had kind of shackled me to this bullying horde led by Mike Harlow and led by Carrie Smith. I felt like the last thing that was shackling me to that was like released. And I actually felt really good after it. And I think it was partially because of all the wonderful feedback and all the wonderful comments that I got. So I just sincerely want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to watch, to everyone who took the time to comment or to message me. It really did mean the world. And I heard you, and I heard that, I've been a valuable resource to you over the last couple years. And so thank you sincerely for all of that. So I guess, okay, mushy stuff out of the way. Before we get into the news, I just want to remind everyone that if you enjoy my 5 o'clock streams, if you enjoy my shenanigans and my nonsense, and let's be honest, sometimes a little bit of drama, because I know you love the drama. I know you guys love the drama because listen, I do content every single day of the week. Literally every single day of the week. I'm posting something somewhere. And the most views and although all you guys deny, you're like, Carlin, I don't know why you're talking about drama. You guys might deny it, but the highest viewed videos I have on my channel by far are drama videos. So I don't want to hear this. You shouldn't be talking about it. You're just above it. If you're not watching my normal content and you only show up to watch the drama and then complain that I'm doing drama, I don't want to hear it, man. I do a little bit of everything on this channel. We are a work hard, play hard community, and that community is grounded in my locals. Now, if you want to become a locals member for free, you can totally do that. kb.locals.com. You can join for free. But if you do want to support the work I'm doing and, help me to continue to do it, because all this stuff does take time, you can become a supporter at kb.locals.com/support at $5 a month or more if you want to. You can also become a supporter at $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift, and all of that is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Now, Quaid, I see that Sam has answered your question already, and people have told you that Sam has answered your question, but I'll answer it in the same way. Quaid says CAT is definitely racist against everyone, but do you think it attacks or demonizes any particular race? No. Sam gave you the correct answer. No, I do not. And I've done several streams on this, and you're welcome to avail yourself of those perfectly for free. The other thing you can do if you want to know the answer to that is you can buy my book, freshly out this week in hardcover and Kindle version. It is called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. It is filled with tips and tricks and case studies. And yes, Quaid, just for you, it will teach you why critical race theory is equally racist among all races, not just against white people, because I know exactly the argument that you're making, because I've been around this racetrack a couple of times. In fact, I had to immerse myself in fighting back against the woke for 2 solid years in order to be able to write this book, in order to be able to really understand what they're doing, to be able to explain it very, very easily for everyone to be able to understand it. And so that's what I tried to do. I tried to really decode it in a uber simplistic way so that anyone can pick up this book. You don't need to be able to read academic literature. You don't even need to have any desire to read academic literature. It is not an intellectual book. It is a highly practical, actionable book. The first part of the book is all about decoding the woke. The second part of the book is all about case studies and actionable strategies that everyone can use to fight back against the woke in their lives, whether that be at work or at schools or in the government or in culture, whatever it is. You're going to be able to get tips and strategies for that. And then the last part is all about how to take care of yourself when you're fighting back against the woke, what to do if you get canceled, those sorts of things. You can order your copy on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, your independent booksellers. If you would like a place to buy the book that is not Amazon, just visit activelyunwoke.com, and there's a big button on the homepage that says non-Amazon options, and you can find your copy there. And if you want to get a signed copy, Charles says he wants it signed with blood. I have not signed any with blood, but if you want to go to Premier Collectibles, actually, let's just do it. Premier Collectibles. And if you look up Actively Unwoke at premiercollectibles.com, you are going to be able to get your very own autographed copy of Actively Unwoke. So that will come with an autographed bookplate inside. And actually, if you become an annual member of my locals, this is only available to annual members. I will actually customize a bookplate for you for free and send it to you, so you get your very own customized autograph copy. All right, guys, let's dig into the news. Now, the first thing I want to start off with is Sean Hannity being a dick. Because, my God, I've always thought that Sean Hannity was a dick. Always, always, always. And, people would be like, oh, Carlin, that's just because you're a leftist, and that's just because you came from the left. And I don't know why you don't like Sean Hannity. I don't know why you don't like Mike Pence. I never liked Mike Pence either, by the way. And I was told over and over again that was just because I was a leftist. And then January 6th happened, and you were all like, we hate Mike Pence. And I was like, aha, aha. And now, oh, Quaid, Quaid, this type of stuff isn't allowed in my chat at all. This type of stuff you will not insult people in my chat, buddy. You will not do it. You're getting put in a timeout right now. You do it again, you're going to get banned. Guys, I curate my chat on this channel because not only do I want it to be a nice experience for me, I want it to be a nice experience for everyone. And so none of that stuff is going to be allowed on my channel at all. Schwan Hammond, are you going to cover the May 22nd WHO thing? I don't know. Maybe. I guess we'll see. I should also tell you guys, I'm aware of the shootings in Buffalo and Wisconsin. I'm not planning on covering that either because Effed Up News is supposed to be a little bit of a lighthearted look at the news. And, while those things are tragic, I'm just not interested in covering it right now. So I don't know about that WHO thing, Schwan, but maybe I'll look into it. We'll see. Right now, I want to talk about Sean Hannity being a dick. Because conservative Twitter has been in an all-out war with Kathy Barnett in Pennsylvania because, of course, Sean Hannity, Rick Grinnell, Greg Kelly, I don't even know, Trump himself have come out basically saying, don't vote for Kathy. She can't win. Don't vote for Kathy. And the MAGA base has been like, F you guys, we're voting for Kathy. But this thread I saw from Sean Hannity was just particularly douchey because Sean Hannity did a complete and total hit piece on Kathy Barnett on his show, and then he basically dared Kathy Barnett to come on his show and refute him, and then Kathy Barnett was like, okay, Sean, I'm ready to come on your show. And look at Sean Hannity's elitist, douchey response to Kathy Barnett. He did a whole thread. Look at this. Kathy, as you know, my staff, I'm going to do it with my pinky out. As you know, my staff has reached out to you repeatedly in the last 48 hours. It's great to finally get a response from you. Why have you been ignoring their calls and texts? Kathy, you denied to my staff memory of the many controversial tweets on your feed. Are you claiming your account was hacked? Kathy, as far as a one-on-one with Dr. Oz, that proposal is actually not fair and balanced to either candidate in the race the day before the election. I must also add that logistically for us, I should do this pinky. Hang on. Am I in the shot? Yes, we'll do this pinky because I have to control my mouse with the other one. I must also add that logistically for us to do a televised debate with all the candidates would be impossible for us to pull off in 3.5 days. Such events often take months or weeks of planning at a minimum. Thankfully, I might have a way to have a debate on Monday. I'm off tomorrow on my radio show, which now airs on 675 stations around the country if the other candidates agree to participate. In the meantime, I have a lot of questions for you. Would you like me to ask them here on Twitter, or would you prefer to talk to my staff that you have been ignoring? What a douche. What a douche. I'm sorry, conservatives. I'm sorry to break the news to you, but Sean Hannity thinks that he is better than all of you. He thinks that he is better than all of you, if he is willing to talk down to a political candidate for Senate, the woman who very realistically could win the GOP nomination for Senate in Pennsylvania, if he's willing to do that to someone running for Senate in his own fucking party, don't you think that he would do that to any one of you? I mean, come on, dude. Come on. It has actually been like Greg Kelly from Newsmax is still going off to this day. It is fascinating to watch the entire, and even, dude, even the New York Post did an entire hit piece on Kathy Barnett. The fucking New York Post. And it's gotten so bad that CNN is actually starting to fact check this stuff. And guys, when CNN is right, we have to admit that they're right. And in this case, their fact check of all the bullshit that these conservative establishment hacks have been spewing at Kathy Barnett is actually correct. Fact check. Deceptive ad from Oz. Allies falsely depict Barnett's position on Black Lives Matter, race, and policing. A super PAC supporting Mehmet Oz, the celebrity surgeon and prominent candidate in Pennsylvania's Republican Senate primary, has released an attack ad that wildly distorts the past remarks and positions of Kathy Barnett, a party rival who is surging in late campaign polls. The super PAC, American Leadership Action, tries to depict the right-wing Barnett, who unsuccessfully ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2020, as a crazy advocate of liberal positions. To do so, though, the super PAC misleadingly truncated Barnett's past comments about race and policing and added inaccurate introductions to the shortened clips. The primary takes place on Tuesday. The super PAC did not respond to a request for comment on Friday. Barnett's views on systemic racism among police officers. The ad's narrators suggest viewers are about to hear Barnett speak on the subject of violence. The ad then shows a clip of Barnett, who is Black, saying Black Americans feel disenfranchised. After a quick cut, the ad shows her saying systemic racism, specifically among police officers. And guess what, guys? Rick Grenell shared this bullshit. Rick Grenell was pushing this as well. And he's doing that on behalf of Trump. You guys have to know that. Facts first. This segment of the ad is deceptive in two ways. First, it completely reverses Barnett's position on systemic racism among police officers. These short clips were snipped from a May 2020 YouTube commentary in which Barnett explicitly rejected the idea that there is systemic racism among police officers. Well, Miss Malevolent, you can literally go and watch the videos. CNN is accurately reporting on this. Go and watch the videos. CNN is accurately doing this. I'm as shocked as you are that CNN is telling the truth, but they are being accurate in this. Your heroes of Sean Hannity, Rick Grenell, and Trump and freaking Newsmax are all lying to you. You can go and watch the videos for yourself. It's not actually that hard. Second, in the same YouTube commentary and in other remarks, Barnett has repeatedly denounced violence, rioting, and looting. Here are Barnett's actual comments about systemic racism and police officers in the YouTube commentary, and we can actually just go and watch the clip. You know what? Let me see how long this is. Can we just watch the clip? Okay, hang on. They've got it right here. We can watch it ourselves. Hang on. I know you can't hear it right now. I'm going to pull it up in another screen so you can see that this is not just CNN telling you what this is. This is actually what this is. But I just need a second here to get this up and running. Hang on. It is mind-boggling to me that conservatives just like to be lied to this extent, to be honest. Okay, let's listen to what Kathy actually said.
And what our country has to offer us and what we can offer it. Listen, there's a reason why many Black Americans feel disenfranchised in America. And I will never try to minimize the reasons why many of them feel that way.
Hang on, I want to address this. Miss Malevolent, it doesn't matter why they're doing it. What matters is they're telling you the truth. It doesn't matter the motivation. In this case, The reason they are doing this, in this case, it is actually because your influencers are lying to you. This is not even an accident that they're lying to you. They are flat lying to you. Now, is CNN taking advantage of the fact that your influencers are lying to you? Yeah, of course they are. But the fact is, in this case, if you care about the truth, CNN is telling the truth and Sean Hannity is not telling the truth. He is blatantly lying to you.
And yet, a lot of what we see is manipulation. It's the stoking of the flame of the tensions of the history of this nation.
Miss Malevolent doesn't belong
For
here.
example,
Goodbye, Miss Malevolent.
Many are saying today that what we're experiencing, what happened to George Floyd, is systemic racism in our justice system, specifically among police officers. They would have us to believe that there is a police officer like Officer Chauvin, who had his knee on George Floyd's neck, around every street corner, and that everywhere we go, there is a police officer waiting to shoot a Black man. I reject that. And I don't reject it because I feel like that's not true. I reject it because it statistically is not true. According to the 2018 FBI Uniform Criminal Report, 2,704 Black people were killed, homicides. Of the 2,704 Black people who were killed in 2018, 226
yeah, you're probably right,
were
Justin.
shot
Probably
by a
right.
police officer. So now that's 3%. So out of all the Black people who were shot in 2018, 3% were shot by a police officer, right? But now, wait, it continues. Out of the 226 who were shot by a police officer, only 18 were unarmed. So now we're not talking about 3% who were shot by a police officer, but only 18 were unarmed. So now we go from 3% to 0.002%. So the number of officers who shoot a Black person who is unarmed is 0.002%. And that number does not take into account those who violently resisted arrest, right? It doesn't take into account those who may not have had a gun, but something else in their hand, right? So do injustices happen?
Well, Quaid just got himself a block because he couldn't handle it being an adult. But the really important thing here is that Kathy Barnett is actually articulating what the conservative position is, and the conservatives are lying about it. They're trying to make her seem like a leftist. They are not telling you the truth. And this should be an eye-opening event, quite frankly, to anyone. Anyone who trusts what the conservative media says, anyone who can trust what the conservative establishment says, they have now called all of that into question because they are flat lying to you about what Kathy Barnett has said purely because they don't want the base to vote for her. It's actually amazing. They've also got Barnett's views on Black Lives Matter and social unrest. The narrators introduces Barnett clip saying, as a comment on Black Lives Matter, the ad then shows Barnett on camera saying the reason for so much unrest in the Black community is because of white racism. The narrator then says in an incredulous tone, white racism? The ad then shows Barnett again saying white racism. The segment of this ad is also deceptive in two ways. First, Barnett's comment about white racism causing unrest in the Black community was not about the Black Lives Matter movement and not even about the present day. The full YouTube video shows that she was paraphrasing findings of a Lyndon B. Johnson presidential commission that looked at the causes of rioting in 1967. And though the ad vaguely hints that Barnett is a supporter of Black Lives Matter, she's actually been a vocal and repeated critic of that, at one point likening it to a bad case of herpes. So guys, the lesson here is that even if it comes from your favorite pundit, even when it comes from your favorite influencer, you have got to fact check what they're saying. Listen, My process for how I look at news is I do look at news stories, but primarily I look at primary sources. I'm not perfect at this because I'm extremely busy and I don't always have the time to fact check things so I understand the pain there. But when I do have time to fact check things and when something doesn't pass the sniff test, like a chopped up video that Rick Grinnell was trying to show with lots of jump cuts claiming Kathy Barnett supported Black Lives Matter, anyone can look at that and be like, nah, dude, nah, you're lying, you're smearing. And it's not okay. It's not okay when the left does it, and it shouldn't be okay when the right does it. And you always need to be vigilant about this and question what you know, because we are very literally before our very eyes watching the Republicans and the conservative establishment adopt leftist tactics to smear Kathy Barnett ahead of Election Day, which is Tuesday, right? I believe. Guys, Kathy's got to win. I'm going to be so, so, so disappointed if Kathy doesn't win. She has to win. If you are in Pennsylvania, please vote for Kathy. You guys, the MAGA base has got to hand the GOP a loss. You guys have got to stand up to them. You guys have got to say, you do not tell us who to vote for. Because if you don't stand up to them in this instance, if Oz wins, the GOP is going to be pulling this bullshit over and over and over and over and over again. They're going to deliver you up rhinos on a silver platter when you don't want, you have said for the last 2 years, no more rhinos, primary all rhinos, primary all rhinos. If you guys allow, all the GOP is going to serve up to you are going to be rhinos. Joe, please be brave. Please vote for Kathy. Yes, she has an uphill battle in the general election. That is very, very true. But Kathy Barnett is a fighter. She's a fighter. And at the end of the day, having a rhino represent you is actually worse than having a Democrat represent you. And it's going to be awful. That would be 6 effing years of rhino that you would be complaining about all the time. You guys got to be brave. You've got to vote for Kathy. Incognito says, ours, it's a small club and you're not invited. I mean, the fact that Sean Hannity talked down to her in the way that he did shows you everything you need to know about exactly how they feel about you. And that's the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. All right, moving on. Oh, I also wanted to play this ad. So Kathy, sorry, I one more thing to do with Kathy. Kathy is not giving up. Let me put this in Chrome so we can hear Kathy's newest ad that hopefully will be going all over the state of Pennsylvania. Gotta hear it, guys. We have to. Kathy's the freaking best, man. Listen, if Kathy loses on Tuesday, I'm gonna be so upset, partially because we don't get her spunk anymore. But let's listen to what she had to say in her latest ad. It's only a minute long. If I can get the volume to work.
Let's go do this.
Kathy Barnett.
Here we go.
I am you, Pennsylvania, and like you, I believe this is the greatest country that has ever existed. But like you, I believe our country is in trouble. The America that allowed me to claw my way out of dire poverty is about to come to a close. This time, you do not have to hold your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils. I am in a statistical tie for first place, so voting for me is not throwing your vote away. You will see me in rooms full of Black people downtown in Chinatown. You will see people ushering me in front of a room full of Amish people, with them introducing me as someone with their values. Not only do I have a grasp on our own base, but I can go into every nook and cranny and take the votes that we need in order to really beat Fetterman in the general election. So let's go do this.
Kathy Barnett is a candidate for the people. On May 17th, vote for Kathy Barnett for United States Senate in the Pennsylvania Republican primary.
My name is Kathy Barnett, and I approve this message.
She's a fighter, man. She can do it. If anyone can win this election, I truly, truly believe that it's Kathy Barnett. Republicans need more fighters. They need to support the fighters when they come along. It's just the way it is, guys. I really hope you vote for Kathy. All right, moving right along. Who is ready? Well, okay. Here's what I need everyone to do. I need everyone to put down anything sharp that you might be holding. I need you to do a couple deep breaths. Actually, let's do a couple deep breaths together right now. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Just let's feel a sense of calm. Because I promise you, the amount of fear, yes, Sam is putting down his cat. Don't harm any pets in what I'm about to read to you. What I'm about to read to you is possibly the most shocking thing that I have ever seen. And I'm sure there's more shocking things out there in children's books. But this is what I'm about to show you is from a book called My Body is Growing, a guide for children ages 4 to 8. This book is taught in public schools, ages 4 through 8. Let's just, be really explicit about this before we read this page that I'm going to read you. And guys, you guys know I'm not a prude. I will tell you literally to mount the like button, kiss the like button, slap the like button, caress the like button, do whatever you want to do to the like button. I'm not a prude at all. I may turn red when I read you the section of this book. Age 4 is pre-K. Age 8 is third grade. It's that magic set of years that the Parental Rights Bill in Florida protects. This book is literally the thing. Maybe not this one specific, but the ideas articulated in this book is what the bill in Florida is all about, not putting into classrooms. All right, let me now that everyone's calm, we send the kids out of the room. They don't need to be here for this. I am possibly too young to hear about what's in this book. Let me read you what's in this book. Let me read you what is actually in this book. This is a page from this book. Marco is a great guy, Toby thinks. When he grows up, he wants to drive as nice a motor scooter as Marco. Secretly, he imagines himself racing around the Serafina riding on the back. Sabrina and Marco kiss often. All the time, thinks Toby. And they also sleep together. Sabrina told Toby so. They snuggle together for a long time. They kiss each other all over their bodies, behind their ears, on the neck, on the chest and stomach, even on the bum and between the legs. Sabrina's vagina becomes moist and warm, and Marco's penis gets very stiff. Marco then pushes his penis into Sabrina's vagina, always in and out. That feels great for both of them. When the feeling is nicest, Marco's penis sprays semen into Sabrina's vagina. That's how you get babies, Toby said. You guessed it, little brother, Sabrina said, and tousled Toby's hair. And if you see on the sidebar, we have examples of birth control pills. We have an example of an IUD, or we have an example of a diaphragm, and we have an example of contraceptive foam. This is for children. Ages 4 through effing 8. This is from Ramona Bessinger, who's one of the people that tweets out this nonsense on Twitter all the time. I'm sorry. I just had to. If my YouTube channel gets demonetized over a book that is literally taught in public schools for children ages 4 through 8, Cider, you're too young for this. Cider, cover your eyes. You're too young for this, Cider. Oh, wait, no. Cider says I can learn about the different kinds of sex toys and how to masturbate at my school library. Cider's like 14. I think that's how old you are. He's young. You're too young for this, Cider. Don't touch those books. Be a kid. There's plenty of time for that. I feel like Cider just stuck into an R-rated movie. No, this is real, guys. This is real. This is being taught in your schools right now at elementary school levels, except in Florida, where they ban this shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Cider is 15 now. Still too young, Cider. Still too young. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with all of you because, well, if you have kids in school, and you don't know what they're reading, and you don't know what's being taught in their classes, you might be in for a little surprise. I'm just saying, this is literally a book about someone's older sister explaining sex to them. That's all I have there. I have nothing else to say. I really think it kind of speaks for itself. But let's move on to other crazy stuff going on in schools. Speaking of people who might teach this sort of book, Woke, Arizona high school counselor who helped organize drag show for students, arrested and accused of having sex with a 15-year-old girl. Yeah, I'm going to say that this is the type of person that might teach that book that we just looked at. A former Arizona high school counselor who previously helped students organize a drag show was arrested and accused of having sex with a 15-year-old girl, according to police. The Tucson's Police Department Child Sexual Assault Unit received a report of an inappropriate relationship between Zabella Brazil Vinnick, 29, and a 15-year-old student at Tucson High Magnet School. At the time, Vinnick was a counselor at the school. Authorities launched an investigation into the claims. On May 4th, 2022, detectives from the police department informed the administration of the school of an ongoing investigation into one of its counselors, the statement said. The administration was informed of an alleged inappropriate relationship between the counselor and the 15-year-old student from Tucson. On May 5th, the school district put Vinnick on administrative leave and initiated its own investigation. On the same day, Vinnick resigned from her counselor position and is no longer an employee at the school. On May 11th, Vinnick turned herself into the police for the alleged charges of inappropriate sexual relationship that occurred off campus. Vinnick was charged with 1 count of sexual conduct with a minor and was booked at the Pima County Jail. The police department told Vinnick's ex-wife, or said that Vinnick's ex-wife told law enforcement officials that the couple had been allowing the 15-year-old to live with them in their home. She reported the 29-year-old and the 15-year-old had been co-sleeping together and recently found Vinnick's underwear hidden under a pillow on the bed the student had been sleeping in. Golly gee. Golly gee. And of course, Libs of TikTok was the first to cover this. And you can see the drag show that was organized by her there. But it's all just innocent. It's all just innocent. An Instagram post from Tucson High Drag reads, "Are you ready to see an epic drag show? We're ready to. Q space. First ever drag show at Tucson High will be here on May 7th. In anticipation, we'd love for you to meet some of our fabulous student performers." And then you can see right there, might be a little bit small. You can see right there who organized it. Same person who was just arrested for having sex with a 15-year-old. Oh, should we look at Cider's images? Let's see. Cider has a hang on. I'm gonna pull this off the screen so you guys can't see before I'm gonna take a quick look for myself, Cider. I want to make sure I'm not outing you or anything. Okay. Oh, good. Oh, this is fun. Okay, I'm not gonna show these now, but I actually want to take a closer look at them. But I may show them on a show this week, Cider. Thank you for the breaking news report. All right, we got a whole bunch more school stuff to cover. Guys, please mount that like button if you have not already. I know you might not be in a mounting mood given what we just saw, but you know it's tradition on this channel. Let's take a look at this one. Public school teachers reveal they work with administrators to ignore the pronouns and name preferences of students' parents, because why should parents be involved in the education of their students at all? It just makes absolutely no sense. Hang on, I see a super chat coming in from Sam. Sam says, "Why is there no public outrage from the left? Because the left is too busy being publicly outraged about abortion." There will never be public outrage about the left because the left thinks this is okay. They think it's okay. Am I for cameras in classrooms? It's funny you asked that, Sarah, because in my new book, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against woke insanity in your life, I actually have an entire section in the book. I don't know if you guys can see that. It says, "Put cameras in classrooms." I have an entire section in the book laying out the argument and dispelling any objection to cameras in classrooms. I am completely in favor of putting cameras in classrooms. I think cameras in classrooms puts a monitor on the state. I think it's a way of monitoring what public schools are teaching your kids. And you have to remember that public school teachers are agents of the state when they're teaching your kids. So yes, I'm 100% for it. I did all the legwork to dispel all the myths, unlike fucking Matt Walsh, who went on Tucker Carlson talking about it like it was his idea and then discarded. By the way, has Matt Walsh done anything with cameras in classrooms in the year since he stole the idea from me? Did Matt Walsh ever do anything with cameras in classrooms? Have I proven my point about how fucking useless Matt Walsh is at this point? Because I had actually started working on cameras in classrooms, and Matt Walsh blatantly ripped off my idea. And then conservatives started yelling at me for saying Matt Walsh ripped off my idea, saying Matt Walsh will lead us to the glory that is cameras in classrooms. And then Matt Walsh never did shit with it. I'm just saying. But it is all in my book. So maybe we'll start doing that with the Unwoke Army now. Who knows? Anywho, let's read this article about pronouns. Elementary school faculty were caught bragging about ignoring requests from parents to refer to them by their given name and pronouns. In late April, the virtual Creating and Sustaining GSAs in Elementary Schools meeting saw Kathy Butler, a second grade public school teacher at Harvey Milk Civil Rights Academy in San Francisco, ask her fellow panelists a question concerning pronoun use when referring to their students. Brent, I fundamentally disagree with this. The schools are already unsavable. I don't know why you guys think the schools are savable. They're not savable. Cameras in classrooms would lead to defunding the public schools faster than anything you've ever seen with your life. And I don't even want to hear anyone arguing because you did it for 2 years under the pandemic. They were streaming classes live on the internet for 2 years under the pandemic. So don't talk to me about Orwellian, dude. The schools are already fucked. The very best thing that we can do now is get them defunded as quickly as possible. Yes, our Lord and Savior, Matt Walsh, already moved on to his next project as soon as he went on Tucker Carlson claiming that cameras in classrooms were his idea when they were not his idea. The Daily Mail reported that Butler asked the panel, what should we do if a parent requests that we refer to their child by the pronouns associated with their sex assigned at birth instead of their preferred pronouns, and that we use a legal name instead of a student's chosen name? Butler, the creator of Gender Inclusive Classrooms, the group that organized the panel and subsequently opened the floor to the other 3 panelists who are all staffers at public schools across the country. One panelist, Kieran Slattery, oh, I have an aversion to that name, as you all know, a 5th grade teacher in Massachusetts who created Gender Inclusive Classrooms with Butler, proceeded to tell the forum that he ignores the instructions given to him by parents. Nothing good ever comes from people named Kieran. Can we just acknowledge that? Literally nothing good ever comes from people named Kieran. Slattery, who teaches at Jackson Street Elementary, said, so I can respond with something that I've done. This came up for me. It's come up a couple of different ways, but it's come up for me where caregivers asked. I actually refer to their child's name using the name they asked to be referred to and their chosen pronouns, and caregivers react very strongly. Justin White, thank you for the super sticker. Yes, Stephen, not the Queen from England Slattery. I'm so glad that you guys are really catching on to the nicknames that you know that anyone named Kieran can go by the Queen from England as now on. Oh, Brian, I'm aware that he has sent over 100 tweets crying about me in the last 2 days. I am obscenely aware that the Queen has been tweeting up a storm in his own little kindergarten love story. I am completely aware. No, that was not a Freudian slip. Nothing good comes from people named Kieran. Anyway, let's continue. Slattery continued by saying that parents followed up with me and the principal and said, like, I know you were using a different name than my child's given name at birth and the pronouns we gave them. And I'm respectfully asking that you use the name and the pronouns we gave them. That to me actually might be controversial. It actually sounds completely reasonable to me for parents to be able to say, use the name and pronouns we gave our child. Slattery also says, the laws in every state are different, and I can't speak to the laws in everyone's particular state, but I will say, again, the resources that we'll give you after this have some helpful sites where you can look up what the rules are for your state. He indicated that before he proceeded with subverting the wishes of his students' parents, he checked with the school administrators to ensure they would support him in his quest to push gender ideology onto his students. Slattery said, before I responded to the caregiver, I made sure I ran it by my principal and my superintendent just to make sure they had my back. Is that the end of the article? That seems to be the end of the article. So that's nice. That's nice. Guys, just as a reminder, your school superintendent reports to your school school board. The way you get the school superintendent fired is you go and you create holy hell at school board meetings. Listen, school boards don't usually have control over curriculum. Anyone going to a school board meeting expecting, oh good, we have Matt Walsh fanboys. You sound triggered. Matt Walsh made it public by saying it on mainstream media. I already got Johnny boy, you know the reason that Matt Walsh did that? Because I got over 2 million fucking views on it before he blatantly ripped off my idea and pretended it was his to go on Tucker Carlson. So I already had 2 million views on it, Johnny boy. And you can go in a timeout and think about your dear and glorious leader, Matt Walsh. So what was I saying? Okay, school boards. School boards don't actually have control over curriculum unless you live in Vermont and Connecticut. So if you are going to school board meetings, expecting them to be able to change the curriculum that your kids are learning, that's usually going to be a fool's errand. They can't do it. They don't have the power to do it. They have the power of the budget. Sometimes they approve books, but you got to remember, once the classroom door closes, the teachers are going to teach whatever the heck they want. The school board really doesn't have much to do with it. But the school board can fire your school superintendent, and the school board can put pressure on the superintendent to fire the school's principal. And so if you're in a school where teachers are refusing to use the given name and pronouns of your kids in exchange for using make-believe, and that's being supported by the principal and the superintendent, that is absolutely an issue that you can take to the school board. The school board has direct oversight over these people. So make sure you know what's going on, guys. Make sure you know. Look at the very best advice I can give you is this. Make sure if you have kids in public schools, you find their teachers on social media. If you have not looked up your kids' teachers on social media, and sometimes they try to hide it, you got to be a little sneaky. Look at everything. Friend your kids' teachers on things. See if they let you onto their pages. They probably will. Make sure you're following them on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok, on whatever other platforms they have. Pay attention to what your kids' teachers are posting on social media, because they will tell you what they're doing. These people act with such hubris. They only ever talk to people who agree with them. And so they don't actually think that there's anything wrong with what they're doing, and they say it publicly all the time. So, tip for today, follow your kids' teachers on social media. You're going to be real glad you did. All right, moving on. Apparently, this is not even the school making up bullshit pronouns. This is the school issuing fines for not using bullshit pronouns. Washington School District charges kids for using wrong pronouns. A Washington school district has filed sexual harassment complaints against 3 middle schoolers for calling a classmate by the wrong pronoun. Let me make this text a little bit bigger so everyone can see it. The school district of Kiel, a city of 3,600 residents. Let me make sure that's good. Okay, cool. Has charged the 3 8th graders at Kiel Middle School with sexual harassment after an incident in April in which the students refused to use they to refer to a classmate who had switched pronouns a month before the alleged incident. So they're blatantly violating free speech here. Blatantly violating free speech. They're not allowed to do this. This is quite literally compelled speech. I received a phone call from the principal forewarning me, letting me know that I was going to be receiving an email with a sexual harassment allegation against my son, said Rosemary, whose 13-year-old son, Braden, is one of the students charged with sexual harassment. I immediately went into shock, she continued in an interview with Fox. I'm thinking sexual harassment? That's rape. That's inappropriate touching. That's incest. What has my son done? The Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is defending the accused students and claims that misuse of pronouns is not covered by Title IX, the U.S. Department of Education statute that protects people from discrimination based on sex and education. Title IX sexual harassment typically covers things like rape, dating violence, quid pro quo sexual favors, really egregious stuff. Will's deputy counsel, Luke, told the network, "There's nothing even remotely close to that in this alleged case." So we should probably be following along with this. Probably should look into that. Charging 8th graders with sexual harassment. How much you want to bet? How much do you guys want to bet that this school is going to get into trouble for like covering something up that they shouldn't be covering up? How much do you want to bet that that's going to happen? How much do you want to bet there's going to be like some pedo shit going on at this school with the teachers? Or there's going to be a case of like a trans student assaulting another student in a bathroom and the school's covering it up? But they're charging kids? And the reason we know that is because it's projection, right? They're doing something wrong, so they're going to try to deflect by charging 13-year-olds with sexual harassment for refusing to use they as a pronoun. Bet you there's going to be effed up stuff in that school. Maybe some intrepid investigative reporter could start investigating the school. I'm just saying, it might not be the worst idea in the world. All right, guys, you're watching Effed Up News for May 15th, 2022. We got a couple more stories here to cover. This one in the Epic Times. As parents resisted transgender push, teachers suggested sending in child services. If Erin Lee had known that her 12-year-old daughter would be exposed to during an after-school art club last May, he never would have let her go. Oh, we covered this story the other day. It began innocently. Lee received a text from her daughter asking if she could stay late at an art club in Wellington Middle School in Fort Collins, Colorado. What happened next, though, would change their lives forever. The art club was actually a meeting of the school's Gender and Sexualities Alliance, which used to be the Gay Straight Alliance, but not anymore. And we have to bow down to King Emphasize for correcting me on that. When the leader told Amanda, name change to protect the minor, she must be queer if she didn't feel sexually attracted to anybody, and that she must be transgender if she didn't feel fully comfortable in her own body, the shy little girl suspected something wasn't right. Smart girl. According to Amanda, the same leader told her not to tell her parents about what they would be discussing that day. The woman in charge, Kimberly Chambers, who worked as a health equity initiatives coordinator for Larimer County and director of the pro-LGBT education Splash Youth of Northern Colorado, also handed out personal contact information to students and urged them to contact her anytime. Chambers' organization has boasted the teachings of has boasted teaching children ages 12 to 16 about polyamory, relationships with multiple sexual partners simultaneously, and other controversial ideas. During the after-school GSA club, according to Amanda, Chambers explained to the children that their family homes may not be a safe space, but that there were resources available. She also handed out transgender flags and stickers that Amanda understood were supposed to represent the children in the club. As soon as Lee picked up her daughter at school, it was clear that something was off. Amanda was looking confused. Showed her mother the transgender paraphernalia she had received from Chambers. The transgender flag represented her, Amanda told her mom. My heart started racing, and my mind blacked out, Lee said. I was in so much shock that I struggled to get out any words. Even though the GSA leader at the school had told Amanda it was okay to lie to her parents, Amanda knew better. Over the days that followed, she told her parents everything, Lee said. Amanda's parents could hardly believe what they were hearing, who had described herself as an ally of the LGBT community, and she had a voting history of pretty progressive on social issues, and she was appalled. Oh, look, they've got the gingerbread person, which is just the same as the gender unicorn. Amanda never went back to the school after that. Instead, her parents put her in a local Christian school, even though it meant Lee would have to work nights to afford it. Or they should homeschool. That would probably be even better. Let's see. After the lesson, Amanda began to wonder whether she might truly be queer and transgendered. Her mental state began to rapidly deteriorate, her mother said. Multiple family members confirmed to the Epic Times that prior to what Lee described as the grooming of her daughter at school, Amanda never showed any signs of gender dysphoria, the term used by psychiatrists to describe discomfort with one's biological sex. Afterwards, though, it was hard for the girl to shake the idea. Lee and her husband, who was outraged by the ordeal, struggled for months with how to talk to their daughter about what happened. We didn't want to say something that would push her further into this dark hole or further into the transgender label, Lee said. And we did exactly what the trusted adults who indoctrinated her told her we would do. We played right into their narrative. Think about how this is crazy. This is actually crazy because what this article just told us is that the people grooming kids in schools, like they're doing it in a really specific way where if the parents try to counteract what the groomers in schools are doing, the parents actually play right into the storyline that the groomers have already told the kids. Man, I would not want to have kids today. I'll tell you that. Thank God I don't. I just worry about other people's kids. Weeks after the incident, as her mental state got worse, the parents decided to take Amanda to a therapist. The therapist also ended up being queer and sought to affirm the girl's confusion about her gender. Holy crap. Listen. Sorry. Sometimes when I talk a lot, I get like congested. So I'm struggling right now, but we're going to make it through. Listen. Psychology has gotten completely woke. People really need to understand this. The American Psychological Association is completely woke. However, there are non-woke counselors out there. There are a lot of psychologists that don't believe in any of this stuff at all. So please do not let this convince you that all psychologists are woke, because they're not. You just have to be extremely explicit. If you are bringing your kids to a psychologist, you have to ask them about how they handle this stuff before you have your kids meet with them. Because there absolutely are non-woke psychologists out there. 100%. And they want to help you. They will help you. But you just need to find the right one. And I know there are people who are trying to put together lists. There may be people actually in your state working to put together lists of like trusted and reliable people who don't buy into this bullshit at all. I know there are in at least 3 or 4 different states. So make sure you ask around. There's not a perfect system yet that I know of, but maybe we can create one. Who knows? By December, between the COVID isolation and the questions surrounding her gender, Amanda's mental state was spiraling downward. The pediatrician immediately prescribed powerful psychotropic drugs from depression medications that Amanda has been since weaned from in an attempt to deal with the crisis. I don't know if that fear will ever go away, Lee said. I don't expect to ever stop being struck with sadness about what happened. The more she thought about the whole ordeal, the more Lee realized she had to do something. First, she contacted Chambers, the woman who Lee says groomed her daughter, and who was also sometimes work as a substitute teacher for the district. Her response was alarming, Lee said. It was delusional. She doubled down on her actions. Next, she contacted the principal. It seemed empathetic, but confirmed that the secret GSA meetings with children were an intentional part of creating a safe space at school. They're literally telling you they're doing this intentionally. There are more than 24 self-proclaimed LGBTQ children at the small middle school, according to the social media post by Splash. After all that, Lee spoke out at a school board meeting and contacted all of its members by email. None responded. She was finally able to sit down with 2 of them. They both supported everything that transpired and refused to address any of my concerns. Finally exasperated and realized the first call should have been to the police. If this had occurred on a playground or any other setting, Lee would have contacted the sheriff's office. This story is crazy. I don't want to read all of it, but oh my God, what great work from the Epic Times. This is the most thorough recounting I've seen of this story. And what we're seeing here is that schools know exactly and precisely what they're doing. They don't care. They think it's acceptable. I think that this is a really important story. If you have access to the Epic Times, please, I'll even pop this link in the chat right now. Epic Times does good work, guys. I will pop this link in the chat on YouTube. Yeah, looks like that went through. Let me pop it in the chat. On Odyssey, let me thank Stembod for the tip. I assure you, Stembod, I would not look good in a bikini, but I appreciate the tip anyway. Thank you for that. Let me pop this in the chat over on Rockfin. And finally, let me pop this in the chat over on Rumble so you guys have it too. And I really recommend everyone take the time to read this, because what this is telling us is that at every single level, from teacher to principal to school board to shrink, this is all intentional. It is all intentional. They know exactly and precisely what they're doing. They think it is the correct thing to do. They think it is the moral thing to do. They think it is the ethical thing to do. And they're not going to stop doing it anytime soon. And this is why I really think that anyone who tries to fix the public schools is going on a fool's errand. They cannot be fixed. They cannot be fixed. AD says, how do parents not punch out these people? Probably because they don't want to get arrested, AD, because that presents a whole new set of problems, doesn't it? And guess what? Guess what would show us exactly and precisely what these kids are learning? Cameras in classrooms would. If we had had cameras in classrooms in Colorado when all this stuff was going down, and if teachers were required to meet in a classroom that had a camera in it that parents could log on to and see what they're teaching your kids, guess what? None of this would have happened. None of it would have happened. All right, moving on. Who wants to talk about how crazy MSNBC is? You guys know, a lot of times I watch MSNBC like comedy. You have to realize that MSNBC is comedy. MSNBC is theater. It is not real in any way, shape, or form. It is theater. They sent out this tweet, and I wanted to show the tweet before we read the article, because the tweet is so bad that it actually speaks to why homeschooling needs to be a more viable option. It may seem harmless, but the insidious racism of the American religious rights obsession with homeschooling speaks volumes. Now, let's just talk about the fact that that sentence doesn't actually make sense at all in any way. It doesn't make sense. But what this is an example of is the fact that the woke left will absolutely 100%, no doubt about it, be going after homeschooling, because homeschooling is our only way out of this, guys. It really is. Homeschooling, charter schools, pods, whatever you want to do, getting the government out of public schools is the only way out of this absolute disaster that is the public school system. Waiting for a super chat. Hang on, just takes a second to pop up. There it is. Justin just said, your book just got delivered to me. I hope you enjoy it, Justin. Guys, just so you know, I will be sending out an email around the book club for the book. I'm going to be pushing the dates back, and that's just because a lot of people still haven't even gotten their books yet, so I want to make sure everyone has a chance to get their book and is reading it. Jason, thank you for getting the book. Just want to let you know I'm really enjoying your book, and thank you for writing it. Guys, before we jump into that, please remember that you can, actually, let me go back to Amazon. You can get my book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Premier Collectibles if you want an autographed copy. It's called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. And I know people are enjoying it. People are reading it. People are getting their copies. I will be running a book club for people who ordered the book. I'm going to be sending out more information about that and giving people a chance to sign up. So that more information about that real soon. But for right now, let's read about this crazy thing that MSNBC is pushing. Public education has become the #1 enemy. The actor Kirk Cameron opines in a promotion for The Homeschool Awakening, his documentary scheduled to hit theaters in June. The documentary, funded by Trinity Broadcasting Network and Cameron's own Cam Fam Studios, argues that parents should be homeschooling their children in the wake of the pandemic. Yes, this might be the first time I have ever agreed with Kirk Cameron in my life. The latest project of conservative evangelical education is another salvo in MSNBC doesn't even have enough money for a copy editor in the ongoing evangelical war against public schools. It should come as no surprise that evangelicals, fundamentalists, and other religious conservatives have fought against public education since the Supreme Court 1954 decision in Brown versus Board of Education. The prospect of integrated schools led to the creation of many segregation academies, private schools designed to keep African American children and undesirable immigrants away from white children. But there was another more insidious way to circumvent integration: homeschooling. All right, I've got a solution to this. I have the perfect solution to racism in regards to schools. Guys, what if we gave every Black child in America the ability to go to whatever school they wanted? What if we gave every Black child and their family in America the ability to choose any rich white school that they want to go to, and we decided to give them money to say, yes, you can go to the rich white school? What if we did that? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't we fix racism in an instant if we just gave every Black child in America the ability to go to whatever school they wanted? See, sometimes when you're arguing for school choice, you have to speak leftist. You have to frame it in ways they can understand. Because not only do I want to give every Black child in America the ability to go to whatever school they want, I want to give every child in America the ability to go to every school what they want. I want to give it to Black children. I want to give it to brown children. I want to give it to Native American children. I want to give it to Asian children. I even want to give it to the white kids, because the white kids deserve it too. Every single child in America should be able to pick out whatever school they want to go to. And yes, that includes the Black children. And sometimes, in order to make your point to the woke left, you have to frame it in leftist. You have to speak leftist. You have to speak it in language they understand. And that's what I just did by focusing on their favorite oppressed segment, rather than just saying everyone, because that doesn't give them the opportunity to say, well, you don't want to give it to Black children. Yes, I do. I want to give it to everyone. Let's continue. One of the main purveyors of homeschooling was a fundamentalist, Rosas Roshduni, whose work began in the 1960s in establishing Christian day schools, grew into the homeschool movement. He saw homeschooling as a way to cut the government out of educating Christian children and to prepare them to take their place in the theocratic government. Crazy or not, homeschooling materials inspired by Rushduni's theology are on sale today to parents who homeschool in America. Many of those materials reached parents during the pandemic. Cameron's documentary promoting homeschooling is not an aberration. It is part of the larger project about dismantling public education system in the United States. Let's see. What about this poll? How would I rate the quality of public schools where I live? I would rate it as 0. Do I get to see? Oh, look, conveniently. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. On MSNBC, check this out. On MSNBC, out of 1,900 people, most people only give their public schools a 5. I'm going to take that as a win. Murphy's Pool says, mount that like button as a GSA counselor mounts a 15-year-old. Probably not the best example, Murphy's Pool. I probably got a few thumbs down from that. But I can't control Murphy's Pool super chats. Murphy's Pool is incorrigible, is what he is. He's incorrigible. This dismantling has taken shape over the years in various ways, in segregation academies and school vouchers, in attempts to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education, and even with former President Donald Trump's appointment of Betsy DeVos to lead the department. Now that her time in government is gone, DeVos is speaking at homeschooling conventions to promote homeschooling and to disparage critical race theory and other detriments to education. Cameron's documentary furthers the long-term goal of America's religious conservatives to dismantle the public school system by promoting homeschooling, an idea that grew in popularity during the pandemic among parents who wanted to make sure their children kept up academically and avoided the coronavirus. According to a report from the U.S. Census Bureau, 11% of parents said that children were homeschooled, compared to 5.4% that spring. We got to get those numbers up, people. We got to get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. I want to see. Listen, man, here's the deal. If we reach a critical mass of parents that are homeschooling in this country, they're going to have a much harder time making it illegal. Because that's what they're going to try to do. They are going to try to make homeschooling illegal. And they're not going to be able to do it if enough parents pull their kids out of public schools and start homeschooling them. I want to see that. I want to see at least 25%. 11% is not good enough. We need to get up to 25% minimum. Some of that increase may be attributed to Black parents and other diverse groups who are now finding homeschooling as an attractive alternative. Yet some parents have expressed frustration with conservative Christian materials for homeschooling, which drive the current marketplace. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think there needs to be homeschool materials that are not Christian related. Homeschooling may have greater appeal now because of these debates and the desire for parents to play a big part in their child's educational life. It also may arise out of pandemic concerns, but parents unfamiliar with the existing networks of homeschooling run the real danger of being drawn into Christian conservative networks and theocratic teaching. They're also really demonizing Christianity in this. And listen, man, I'll demonize Christianity as much as the next person, but probably not on this particular issue. All right, guys, I do always like to end Effed Up News with positive stories. Because if we're going to spend an hour and a half of our time thinking about effed up stories, we might as well end on the good. And I actually have a couple good ones. The first one I just think is funny. The last one I think is promising. Promising. This one, thank you, Ava, from my locals for suggesting this. Elementary school accidentally sells roses with thongs for Mother's Day, reports say. Let me just make this text a little bit bigger. A school in Pennsylvania has issued an apology to parents after accidentally selling fake roses with thong underwear for Mother's Day. At least one mom who was given the rose from her child posted a video about the gift on Facebook saying, "Here's the flower St. Anselm's Catholic School gave out to grade schoolers for Mother's Day." Let's see if we can see what this looks like real quick. There's the flower. What is the flower? Is the flower something special? Oh my God. I know we don't have the sound up, but I don't think we need it. And a thong came out of the flower. Wow, that was unexpected, wasn't it? As the rose opened in the video, the center reveals a red thong folded inside. You can hear laughter as the woman recording the unveiling says, "Thank you, St. Anselm's." Several newspapers outlets reported the school sent an email to the parents explaining the mishap. It has come to our attention that roses sold at our Mother's Day plant sale were not the single faux flower originally intended, the apparent email read. Instead, the item was a Valentine's Day gift intended for adults. I mean, to be honest, probably not the worst gift they've ever been given for Mother's Day. At least they're going to get a good laugh out of it, if nothing else. But the last story I want to end on today comes from the most unexpected of places. It comes from Netflix. Netflix is basically telling its employees, keep your opinions to yourself. This is in the Wall Street Journal. Netflix to employees. If you don't like our content, you can quit. Streaming giant adds new artistic expression section in first update to corporate culture guidelines since 2017. Okay, let me explain to you what a big deal this is. Because Netflix corporate culture book, it is like in the organizational development and like HR space, Netflix's corporate culture book is like the pinnacle. It is the guidebook that all other HR people follow. I'm not exaggerating about this. It is held up as the standard bearer for how corporate culture is developed. It is presented about just conferences all over the world. People workshop this stuff. I know that because I am a corporate trainer and I've spoken at all these effing HR conferences. I've spoken at the biggest HR conferences in the world that are promoting Netflix Culture Manual as and so the fact that Netflix is adding this to its corporate culture manual, this is actually a really big deal. This is not just about Netflix. Netflix is like trickle down into all other HR practices in all other organizations. I cannot emphasize how impactful this actually could be with getting woke bullshit out of the workplace. Netflix has a new message for its employees. Be prepared to work on content you may not agree with. And if you don't like that, you can quit. In an update to its cultural guidelines, the streaming giant added a section called Artistic Expression, which details how the company offers an array of programming for many audiences. We let viewers decide what's appropriate for them versus having Netflix censor specific artists or voices, Netflix said in an updated part of its culture memo. The company added that it support offering diversity in stories, even if we find some titles counter to our own personal values. Now, I see people dissing Netflix in the chat, and listen, I totally get this. But sometimes you have to put aside the misdeeds from the past and celebrate that they got there at all. Because I promise you, if you just continue to attack Netflix over this, you're going to inhibit the impact that it could actually have on so many other companies that they did this. This is something to be celebrated. This is something to be lifted up. Like, conservatives should be lifting this up to be like, yes, let's all go subscribe to Netflix. They're telling us they aren't going to censor our content anymore. I know that might be a hard pill to swallow, but if you want to, one of the easiest ways that you can make the most impact in getting woke shit out of corporate culture is by supporting this and lifting it up as the example to follow. Depending on your role, you may need to work on titles you perceive to be harmful. Netflix says, if you find it hard to support our current content breadth, Netflix may not be the best place for you. A Netflix spokesman said the company updated its culture page on Thursday for the first time since 2017. He said Netflix has spent the past 18 months discussing cultural issues internally with employees. The new language was added, he said, so the prospective employees could understand our position and make better informed decisions about whether Netflix is the right company for them. Netflix and other companies have come under pressure from employees, shareholders, and politicians on how they react to cultural and political issues. Netflix, for instance, supported comedian Dave Chappelle last year following his stand-up special, The Closer, on the streaming platform, which sparked criticisms for remarks about transgender people that some found offensive. And if you guys don't think that the work that Chris Rufo has done on Disney has contributed to this, the fact that Disney's shareholder value tanked, and you guys know how I feel about the state of Florida retaliating against Disney for protected political speech. I'm not in favor of it, but I'm completely in favor of everything up to that point. They saw what happened with Disney, and they were like, nope, Disney's a competitor. Nope, we're not going down that road. Netflix did this because they learned from Disney. No other reason. The special prompted a protest in front of Netflix's Los Angeles office and calls for Netflix to remove the show from its platform, which it did not. Netflix co-executive and chief content officer Ted stood by the special in emails to staff. He later said he screwed up with his efforts to communicate to employees. Ted bent the knee. He never should have done that. Aha! Disney. I knew they were going to get there. At Twitter Inc., employees have reacted to the prospect of a takeover by Elon Musk with mixed enthusiasm, fear, and humor, with some pushing back against the idea of a Musk-owned Twitter. Walt Disney Company was criticized about how it internally stayed quiet on new legislation in Florida that governs gender and sexuality taught in schools. After pressure from some employees and critics, Disney vowed to fight against the legislation. Florida's legislator has since repealed the company's special tax status, which they should not have done, and was a blatant violation of free speech and a massive overstep that is absolutely going to come back to bite them, but that's another topic for another day. For Netflix, the company's spokesperson said employees were given the chance to offer feedback on the new cultural guidelines. He said the company received more than 1,000 comments that helped shape the new part of the memo. Netflix is coming off disappointing quarterly report last month, which showed it lost subscribers for the first time in a decade. Revenue also grew at its slowest pace in years amid rising competition from new and existing streaming rivals. The company says it is exploring offering lower-priced, ad-supported versions of the platform to help boost the subscriber base. Shares of Netflix, which recently surged at the beginning of the pandemic, have fallen nearly 70% this year. Oh yeah, this was definitely about Disney. This is definitely about Disney, but you know what? I don't care why they did it. I don't care. I really, this is in the HR space, guys. Again, if you are concerned about woke bullshit entering your company, this is probably the most impactful development that has happened in years in the HR space. I'm talking going back to 2017 when Netflix released this thing in the first place. It really will be that impactful in the HR space. Listen, HR people, and no offense to any HR people who might be watching, because if you're watching me, I'm going to assume that you are a smarter HR person than the average HR people. HR people are usually not that bright. They just aren't. They are followers. They are hangers-oners. There are some of them that are incredibly bright, and I've been privileged to work with some of those people, but most HR people are just not the brightest crayons in the box. They do what they are told. They're very, very simple people. If you give them instructions, they will usually follow it, which is why so many of them have been so taken in by this woke cultural bullshit. They aren't thinking about the long-term ramifications. And a lot of them follow Netflix. They follow Netflix and they say, whatever Netflix is doing is the best, and that's what we should be doing too. So we have to celebrate this, guys. I know you don't want to celebrate Netflix. I get it. You're like, they released Cuties and it was awful and I canceled my subscription. No. If you canceled your subscription to Netflix, re-up the subscription and make sure they know why you did. Tell them, flat out say to them, I resubscribed to Netflix because they're not censoring content. If you do that, if enough people do that, it will have a massive impact on the HR industry. I'm telling you right now, this cannot be overstated. You don't miss opportunities like this when they come along, guys. You really don't. Sometimes you have to support people you don't like when they do the right thing, because the goal is more important than your personal preference. All right, guys, that's all I have for Effed Up News today. I will be back tomorrow on Monday, the 16th, and I actually think I might have a great conversation tomorrow that it has not saved in my calendar. So I might have to tell you about that conversation tomorrow after I go make sure it is actually tomorrow and not next week. But guys, I will be back live at 5 tomorrow evening. I hope you will join me. I'm live at 5 on this channel every day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on my main channel. On Fridays, we go to my second channel, Actively Unwoke for Happy Hour. And on Saturdays, we might be doing Sassy Saturday this week. Who knows? We're going to have to see what happens. But if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me doing these streams every single day, I hope you'll consider becoming a member of my locals. This is what keeps me in business. I cannot continue to do daily streams without the help and support of my locals. So if you watch my streams often, if you get value from my streams, if you appreciate them, I hope you'll consider becoming a member. I know times are tight, but I do try to give a lot back to my locals. We do 2 Zoom calls every single week that last like 3, 4, 5 hours, unrecorded, private time where we have a little bastion of sanity. We actually did Bitchcraft yesterday. Bitchcraft was great. We all got on a Zoom and we crafted and we gossiped and we talked about what was going on in the world. I was working on knitting, of course, as the far most superior of all crafts, but people were crocheting, they were drawing, they were cleaning guns, they were just hanging out. You didn't even have to bring a craft. You could have just come and hung out. We do book club in my locals. We have supporter Discord in my locals. And of course, we have the Unwoke Army in my Discord, which will be having a meeting in just a few short minutes. And if you want access to that and much, much more, you can head over to kb.locals.com/support and sign up for $5 a month or more if you're so inclined, but $5 a month is the minimum. You can also sign up for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift, which I greatly appreciate. Yeah, we were talking about jambalaya yesterday. Holy hell. God damn it, Brian. Now I want jambalaya. God. And of course, guys, remember to pick up your copy of my book, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against woke insanity in your life. And I will be sending out more information about doing an exclusive book club very soon. And guys, by the way, if you want to get invited to that book club, just join my locals for free. You don't even have to pay. kb.locals.com. That'll give me your email address. That way you will get information on the free exclusive book club that I will be doing for my book. Charles says Carlin is in the top 5 of my content providers on locals. I highly recommend that you support her. Listen, I may not have the biggest community on locals, but I firmly believe that I do have the best community. All right, guys, that's all we've got for today. Take care. I will see you tomorrow. And nuclear. I may unban you if I get around to it, but it is quite a pain in the butt to go through all the names of people who I've blocked. I will try to if I get to it, but if not nuclear, I know you have 15 or 20 other accounts and you're going to survive until I get around to it. But thank you for hanging out, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for everything else. Take care, and we'll see you soon.